The new assistant thought the millionaire actor was gay, taught him how to kiss, and his performance improved 1000%. Before we begin, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy. Belle Everly pushed the dressing room door open with her hip, arms full of folders, a cup of coffee, and her ID badge hanging from one ear. "Hey, Axel." They left the revised scripts at the front desk. She froze, literally froze, as if time itself had paused to witness the same scene she was seeing. Axel Bennett, the heartthrob of the new soap opera Burning Hearts, standing in the middle of the dressing room, holding his best friend by the waist with both hands, staring into his eyes, their faces so close they looked like they were about to kiss. Belle blinked. Once, twice. The coffee began to drip through her fingers, but her brain was still processing what she saw in slow motion. Her eyes widened. She whispered, "Oh, dear Lord," took a tiny step backward as gracefully as a hippo in high heels, hit her knee on the makeup counter, dropped a brush to the floor, and nobody in that room heard a thing. "They're totally into it. Is this rehearsal? A scene? No, this is... She turned around, tripped over her own foot, nearly hit the wall face first, and ducked behind the divider like a ninja with messy hair. "I didn't see anything. Nothing. Zero. It's gone from my memory. My brain erased it by itself," she whispered to herself, eyes wide, breathing heavily. She slipped out into the hallway as fast as she could with dignity, which, in Belle's case, was basically no dignity at all, and collapsed onto the couch in the reception area. "Axel is gay!" Her mind was screaming like sirens and neon lights. That explains everything. The lack of chemistry with the lead actress, the kiss scenes that feel like two distant cousins trying to act out Romeo and Juliet at a family reunion. My goodness, it all makes perfect sense. Belle didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or search for a therapist on Google. But before she could make a decision, a voice yelled from the end of the hallway, "Belle, director's office, now." She jumped off the couch like the backrest had zapped her. "On my way," she replied, fixing her hair, trying to look professional and not like someone who had just uncovered the biggest secret of the decade. When she got to the director's office, she ran straight into Mr. Griffith, bald, always in a rush, and constantly smelling of cigarettes and stress. He didn't even look at her, just pointed to a clipboard. "Starting today, you're Axel Bennett's new personal assistant." Belle froze. "Excuse me? You heard me. His assistant. Full-time. Filming, rehearsal, wardrobe, coffee, schedule, morning moods, and especially keeping him out of trouble. Understood? Sir, with all due respect, me? Is that a problem?" "Yes, several," she thought. "No, sir, of course not. Everything's perfectly fine, smooth as a baby alpaca," she said, laughing nervously. "Good. He's a top priority for the network now. Take care of him. But if he loses it, I'm blaming you. Now get out. I've got 3 writers in crisis and a director who wants to shoot a kissing scene in the rain with lightning." Belle left the office like someone who'd just been hired to take care of a tiger with PMS. Axel Bennett, the most handsome actor on TV, and gay, and now my boss. She walked back to the studio, repeating a mantra in her head. Professional. Keep your distance. No judgment. Don't stare at the pretty man who kisses other men in secret backstage. When she entered the production room, she saw Axel sitting on the couch, scrolling on his phone, looking like he had just eaten a whole box of expired chocolates. "Hey, Belle, right?" he said, looking up. She smiled, pretending she didn't know a thing. "That's right. I'm your personal assistant." "Wow, so it's you. Good to know." "Have a seat," he said, pointing to the chair next to him. Belle sat down, crossed her legs, uncrossed, crossed the other way, dropped her purse, picked it up, smiled. Stayed quiet. She was sweating in places she didn't even know could sweat. Axel showed her his phone screen. It was full of comments. That kiss was drier than the Nevada desert. Zero chemistry. Worst romantic scene of the year. Can someone teach Axel how to kiss like a human being? He sighed. The internet loves me, clearly. Belle let out a nervous little laugh. They just want to see you do better. It's like a slap disguised as encouragement. He tossed the phone onto the couch. The truth is, I'm terrible in romantic scenes. I try, but I don't know, I freeze. It all feels fake. Belle, on an impulse her brain didn't have time to stop, blurted out, "If you want help, I could, practice with you, rehearse, scenes, techniques, things like that." Axel's eyes widened. You want to teach me how to kiss? No, I mean, yes, but not really. Like a scene, technique. I did theater in high school, and I've watched every romantic movie on Netflix, even the bad ones. I can be your practice partner. That's all. Just friendly, no hidden agenda, just practice, technical, like sports training. She was sweating more than a bus window on a rainy day. Axel hesitated, then gave a small smile. You're different. Thanks, I think. All right, let's try it. A rehearsal. Belle froze. A rehearsal with the most handsome gay man in America? No problem. I can handle this. This is going to be easy. Totally. Little did she know that this rehearsal was about to become the most chaotic real-life script she'd ever seen. The next morning, Belle showed up at the studio carrying a giant folder, 3 acting books she borrowed from the library, and a notepad full of notes she'd written after watching romantic movies until 3 a.m. Good morning, future irresistible leading man, she called out as she burst into Axel's dressing room like an organizational whirlwind. Axel nearly choked on his coffee. You brought study materials? Of course. Look at this, Belle said, spreading the books on the table. Romantic acting techniques, the Stanislavski method for love scenes, and how to kiss on screen, an actor's manual. I found the last one in a used bookstore, but it seems legit. Axel picked up the book and read the cover, looking horrified. Belle, this is from 1987. Look at the couple on the cover. They look like they're in a dentist ad. Details. What matters is the technique, she said, clapping her hands. Let's start with the basics. First exercise, the romantic gaze. Seriously? Dead serious. Sit on the couch and look at me like I'm the love of your life. Axel sat on the couch, trying not to laugh at Belle's scientific-level determination. Like this? He asked, forcing a face that looked more like stomach cramps than passionate longing. Belle winced. Oh dear, you look like you ate bad chili. Try again, but this time imagine I don't know, the last slice of pizza in the fridge when you're starving. You want me to look at you like your pizza? It's a metaphor. Desire, Axel, desire. He tried again. This time his expression was less tragic. Better. Now next step, said Belle, checking her notes. Gradual approach. You're going to walk toward me slowly, like you're hypnotized by my stunning beauty. Stunning beauty? Pretend. It's acting, dear. You don't have to actually believe it. I bet when you rehearse with your boyfriend, you don't go through all this extra stuff, right? Axel choked again. What? Relax, I'm not judging. Love is love, Belle said, giving his shoulder a friendly pat. Now come over here and rehearse with me. No prejudice, just pure technique. Axel stood up, still processing what she said, and walked toward her slowly. Belle stood in front of him, serious like a physics teacher explaining quantum theory. Now put your hands on my waist, gentle but firm, like I might break, but you don't want to let me go. He hesitated a second, then placed his hands on her waist. His touch was soft, but something strange happened. A jolt ran through his body like he'd touched a live wire. Belle kept talking, unaware of the effect. Perfect. Now take a deep breath and exhale slowly. Breathing is key. Leading men always breathe dramatically, like this. She demonstrated, inhaling deeply and exhaling like she was in a yoga class for hopeless romantics. Axel tried to follow, but he was too distracted. His hands on her waist felt like they were on fire. Belle's sweet perfume was completely throwing off his focus. Axel, are you listening? Yes, breathing, dramatic. Now let's practice the hand kiss. It's classic, elegant, and you guys love those refined gestures, right? He nearly passed out. Belle, take my hand and kiss it with style, like a European prince greeting a duchess. Axel took her hand, doing his best to stay composed, and gave her fingers a soft kiss. Belle smiled, clearly pleased. Beautiful. You've got potential. Your boyfriend must melt when you do that. I don't have a... Now let's move on to the main exercise, Belle said, cutting him off as she checked her notes. Almost kiss. You're going to lean in, breathe together, make intense eye contact, but no real kiss. We're just practicing the romantic tension. Axel swallowed hard. Romantic tension. That's it. Come here. They stood face to face. Belle placed one hand on his chest, the other on his shoulder. Axel, slightly shaking, put one hand on her waist again and the other on her face. Now look into my eyes like I'm the most important person in the universe, Belle whispered. Axel followed her lead. And suddenly, he wasn't pretending anymore. Belle's brown eyes were so close he could see tiny golden flecks he'd never noticed before. His heart started racing. "Bring your face closer, slowly," she whispered. He leaned in until he could feel her breath on his skin. Belle kept giving technical instructions, but her voice was lower now, huskier. "Now breathe with me, like you're one person." They breathed in sync. The world around them disappeared. Axel felt the urge to close the last few inches between them and, "Oh my gosh, how cute!" They both jumped away like they'd been shocked. Sarah, the production assistant, was standing at the door, phone in hand, with a huge smile on her face. "Sorry to interrupt, but you two were so adorable I couldn't help it. I recorded a bit. Can I post it on the show's behind-the-scenes Instagram?" Belle turned bright red. "No, Sarah, delete it." "Why? Are you two really dating or just hooking up? Because the audience is going to go crazy over this video." "We're not. It's not," Belle stammered. But Sarah had already vanished down the hallway, probably adding romantic music and heart filters to the video. Axel stood frozen, still tasting the almost kiss on his lips. Belle looked at him in a panic. "Relax," she said, trying to laugh. "No one's going to believe we're actually together. You're gay, I'm just your assistant. At most, they'll think we're friends messing around." Axel nodded, but inside he was screaming. "I'm not gay, and now you're driving me crazy." 3 hours later, the video had 50,000 views on the network's Instagram. The comments were a tidal wave of excitement. "OMG, they're a real couple. The chemistry, it's better than the actual show. I'm obsessed, Belle and Axel. When's the wedding?" Belle was locked in the bathroom, staring at the comments in total shock. Axel was in his dressing room, looking at his reflection, wondering how he could tell Belle he wasn't gay without her pushing him away. Out in the hallway, Sarah shouted, "Guys, the video went viral. There's already bloggers coming up with theories about their relationship." Belle opened the bathroom door, looking desperate. "Sarah, what do you mean viral?" "Sweetie, you two are now the most shipped couple on the internet. Congratulations." Axel showed up in the hallway, just as frantic. "What do we do now?" Belle stared at him, still trying to process it all. "We pretend we're just friends and hope it blows over?" Axel agreed, but inside he was thinking, "Friends? After what I felt today? Good luck with that, Belle Everly." And while they tried to come up with a plan to contain the chaos, the video kept spreading across social media, turning them into the most unlikely romantic celebrities in the country. The next morning, Belle woke up to 47 missed calls, 280 WhatsApp messages, and a Facebook post from her mom. "My daughter is dating a famous actor. I always knew she had good taste." "Mom, for heaven's sake," Belle groaned into the phone, still in her pajamas. "I'm not dating anyone. It was just a rehearsal." "Sure, sweetie, and I'm the Queen of England. I watched the video 15 times. You two were undressing each other with your eyes." Belle hung up and turned on the TV. The morning show Good Morning Los Angeles was playing the video of her and Axel on a loop, with the host cheerfully commenting, "And here's Hollywood's sweetest new couple." Heartthrob Axel Bennett seems to have found love right under our noses, with his new assistant, Belle Everly. Sources close to the couple say they've been seen together often in the past few days. "What sources?" Belle yelled at the TV. "I'm the source, and I didn't confirm anything." Her phone rang. It was Axel. "Belle, are you watching this?" "I am, and I'm freaking out. They're just making things up." "Relax. I'm giving an interview this afternoon, and I'll clear everything up. I'll explain that we're just friends, work colleagues." Belle felt a strange sting in her chest when he said friends, but brushed it off. "Perfect. The sooner we shut this down, the better." 2 hours later, Belle was at the studio watching Axel give a live interview on Entertainment Tonight. The reporter, overly tan and with way too white teeth, was asking questions with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. "So Axel, everyone wants to know, are you and Belle Everly dating?" Axel gave a polite smile. "Belle is an amazing professional and a very dear friend. There's nothing romantic going on between us. The video that leaked was just a rehearsal to help improve my performance in the show's romantic scenes." Belle nodded from the production room, fully approving. "But you two looked very close in the video," the reporter insisted. "It's acting. Belle is helping me become a better actor. That's all." The reporter didn't give up. And what about the rumors about your sexual orientation? Some fans are speculating that you... Axel quickly interrupted. My personal life is private. I'd rather not comment on that. Belle frowned. He didn't deny it. Of course he didn't. Poor guy, it must be awful having to hide who you really are just because you work in Hollywood. After the interview, Belle found Axel in the dressing room, clearly tense. Great interview, she said, trying to sound cheerful. I think you managed to clear everything up. You really think so? Of course. You made it clear we're just colleagues and that you, well, have your personal reasons for not talking about relationships. Axel looked at her, puzzled. My personal reasons? Relax, I get it. It must be tough. But someday you won't have to hide who you really are anymore. Axel looked even more confused, but before he could ask anything, Belle was already checking the schedule. Speaking of which, you've got a romantic scene to film with Melissa tomorrow. Want to rehearse a bit more, just to make sure it comes out perfect? Axel's eyes lit up. That would be great. Thanks, Belle. She smiled. That's what I'm here for. Shall we head to our little practice room? They walked over to the small space they had turned into their romance lab. Belle had decorated it with some fake candles for safety, soft romantic music playing in the background, and even hung some Christmas lights she found in the supply closet. Wow, you redecorated, Axel said, impressed. Setting the mood is key. Now sit here on the couch and tell me what tomorrow's scene is about. Axel sat down, trying to stay focused on the scene and not on how beautiful Belle looked in the soft glow of the lights. It's a scene where I realize I'm in love with Melissa's character. I have to confess my feelings spontaneously, then kiss her. Spontaneous confession. Got it, Belle said, picking up her notepad. Let's practice. I'll play Melissa. First, the confession. Now, pretend you just realized you're madly in love with me. I mean, with Melissa. Me acting as her. You know what I mean. Axel took a deep breath. This was his chance to say everything he was feeling, even if it was just a rehearsal. Melissa, just speak naturally. Let it come from the heart. Axel looked into her eyes. I spent so much time pretending what I felt wasn't real, trying to convince myself it was just work. But it's not. When I look at you, everything makes sense. You make me want to be a better person. You make me feel things I never thought I could feel. Belle stayed quiet, caught in the intensity of his voice. I know it's crazy, Axel went on, moving closer. I know we're very different, but I can't keep pretending I'm not completely in love with you. Belle's heart was racing. His acting felt too real. Axel? And I know you probably don't feel the same, he said, getting even closer. But I had to tell you. Belle was speechless. The confession felt so real. For a moment she forgot it was only practice. Now, the kiss? Axel whispered. Belle nodded, a little dazed. They leaned in slowly. But this time, when their lips met, it wasn't a technical or hesitant kiss. It was real. Soft, yet intense. Gentle, yet full of passion. Belle felt the world spin. A strange and wonderful sensation swept through her whole body. It was like 1,000 butterflies started dancing in her stomach. She had never felt anything like it. When they pulled apart, they stared at each other in silence. Belle was out of breath and completely confused. That was, she began. Intense, Axel finished. Very good. For the scene, I mean. It's going to be perfect on camera. Axel nodded, but he was holding back the urge to admit it hadn't been acting. Belle, Oh wow, what time is it? She interrupted, checking her watch. It's getting late. We should go. You've got that meeting with the director, remember? Yeah, you're right. They both stood up, a little awkwardly. Belle quickly gathered her things, trying not to look directly at Axel. So, see you tomorrow on set. I'm sure everything will go great. Belle? Bye, Axel. She ran out of the room like she was escaping a fire. Axel stood there alone, running a hand through his hair. She felt something, he whispered to himself. I'm sure she did. Outside, Belle was leaning against the hallway wall, trying to make sense of what had just happened. It was just a rehearsal kiss. Just technique. He's gay, Belle. Gay! It didn't mean anything to him. You're the one freaking out. But even as she tried to reason with herself, she couldn't shake the feeling of his lips on hers, or the way his heart was racing when she placed her hand on his chest, or how his eyes sparkled when he said those words. Wait a second. What if? She shook her head hard. Stop it, Belle. You saw him almost kiss another man. with your own eyes. Don't start imagining things just because he's an amazing actor. Meanwhile, online speculation about their relationship kept growing. Gossip blogs had started using the hashtag #XLForever. Fans were coming up with wild theories about every photo of the two of them together. And one Twitter account even posted, "I'll bet $1,000 they'll make it official by the end of the month." The next morning, Belle arrived on set determined to keep things professional. But when she saw Axel rehearsing the same scene with Melissa that they had practiced the night before, she felt a strange little pang of jealousy. "This is ridiculous," she thought. "Why am I jealous? He's not even into women." But when Melissa ran her fingers through Axel's hair in exactly the same way Belle had done during rehearsal, Belle had the urge to shout, "Hey, that was my idea!" Axel, for his part, was trying to do his best in the scene, but he couldn't stop comparing it to the rehearsal with Belle. The kiss with Melissa felt stiff, lifeless, nothing like the spark he had felt the night before. During the break, Belle walked over with 2 bottles of water. "How was it?" "Good. Normal," Axel lied. "Melissa's a great actress. You two have chemistry." "Not as much as I have with you," Axel thought, but he said, "Yeah, she's professional." Belle nodded, trying to ignore the wave of relief she felt at his lukewarm reply. "Well, I'm going to take care of some schedule stuff. Let me know if you need anything." She turned to leave, but Axel called after her. "Belle, could we maybe rehearse more tonight for the next scene?" Belle turned, surprised. "Sure, if you think you need to." "I do," he said, and this time he wasn't just talking about acting. As Belle walked away, Axel smiled. Maybe there was a chance she was feeling just as confused as he was. And maybe, just maybe, that kiss had been as real for her as it was for him. Now he just had to figure out how to tell Belle he wasn't gay, without ruining their friendship in the process. 3 weeks later, Belle was on the couch in her little studio apartment in Burbank, eating popcorn straight from the pot and watching the Golden Screen Awards on streaming. Axel had been nominated for Best Actor in a Television Drama, and she was nervously rooting for him, like she was the one up for the prize. Please win. You deserve it after all the work you've put in," she thought, fingers crossed. On TV, the presenter opened the golden envelope, and the winner is Axel Bennett for Hearts on Fire. Belle jumped off the couch, cheering and tossing popcorn in the air like she'd just won the lottery. "He did it! I knew it." At the ceremony, Axel walked on stage visibly moved, holding the golden trophy, and stepped up to the microphone. The audience was silent, waiting for his speech. "First, I want to thank the producers, the amazing cast," he began, going through the usual list of thank yous. Belle was biting her nails, anxious. "But most of all," Axel continued, looking straight into the camera, "I want to dedicate this award to the person who completely changed my career and my life. Belle Everly, my assistant and the best acting coach I've ever had. Without her, I never would have found the truth in my characters. Belle, if you're watching, this award is ours." Belle dropped the entire pot of popcorn on the floor. "He said my name on TV, national television." She screamed to the walls of her apartment, dancing around her kitchen table. Her phone started ringing nonstop. First her mom, then 3 cousins, then her neighbor, then people she didn't even know had her number. "Belle, sweetheart, you're on TV. Everyone's talking about you." Her mom yelled on the phone. "Mom, he just thanked me." "Just? He dedicated a national award to you. That's practically a marriage proposal." Belle laughed, still in shock. "Mom, come on, we're just co-workers." But when she hung up the phone and checked social media, she nearly fainted. Her Instagram had jumped from 500 followers to 15,000 in just 2 hours. Twitter was blowing up with the hashtag Belle Everly. And on TikTok, people were posting videos, analyzing every word of Axel's speech. The next morning, Belle arrived at the studio and was welcomed like a celebrity. People who had never spoken to her before came up to say hi, take selfies, and ask about her revolutionary coaching method for actors. "Belle," Sarah shouted, running down the hallway. "You're a meme now. There's a video on TikTok of you dancing with popcorn that already has 2 million views." "What do you mean I'm a meme? Someone filmed you celebrating last night through your apartment window. You were dancing by yourself in the living room. It's the cutest thing ever." Belle panicked. "Guys, you can't just film people's private lives like that." Relax, everyone's in love with you. Look at this. Sarah held up her phone. 15 million views. Just then, Axel showed up in the hallway holding a gold trophy and a huge bouquet of flowers. Belle, I finally found you. She turned red instantly. Axel, congratulations. You really deserved it. Thanks, and these are for you, he said, handing her the flowers, for everything you did for me. People around them started whispering and snapping pictures. Belle tried to play it cool. You didn't have to. Of course I did. You changed my career, Belle. I meant what I said yesterday. Before Belle could answer, the director's assistant came rushing in. Belle Everly, there's a phone call for you. It's urgent. For me? Who is it? David Richardson. Belle froze. Sarah dropped her phone. Even Axel's eyes went wide. David Richardson was one of the most respected directors in Hollywood. He directed 3 Oscar-nominated films and the most awarded drama series on Netflix. It must be a prank, Belle whispered. He's on the line, the assistant insisted. Belle walked to the office on shaky legs. She picked up the phone like it was about to explode. Hello? Belle Everly, this is David Richardson. I have a proposal for you. The voice was deep, serious, definitely real. Mr. Richardson, hi. I saw your work with Axel Bennett. Very impressive. His transformation was remarkable. I'm developing a new series for HBO called Manhattan Hearts, and I need a lead actress who comes across naturally and has real chemistry. I'd like you to audition. Belle nearly fainted. An audition? To act? That's right. Are you interested? Yes, of course. But Mr. Richardson, I'm not an actress. I'm just an assistant. Belle, I've been in this industry for 20 years. I know natural talent when I see it. And from what I've seen in those videos going around, you've got something special. The audition is tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the Warner Studios. Can you be there? Yes, wow, thank you. Great. Oh, and Belle, come prepared. The role is opposite Axel Bennett. You two would play a couple on the show. Belle almost choked. A couple, romantically? That's right. See you tomorrow. He hung up. Belle stood there holding the phone, completely stunned. David Richardson wants me to audition for an HBO show, opposite Axel, as a romantic couple. She stumbled out of the office. Axel was waiting in the hallway, anxious. Well, who was it? David Richardson wants me to audition to be your love interest in a new HBO series. Axel's eyes widened. Seriously? I think I'm going to pass out. Easy, breathe. Belle, this is amazing. Amazing. Axel, I've never acted professionally in my life. My only experience was playing a tree in my school's Christmas play. And I still forgot my line. Belle, you're a natural. You've got talent, and we already have chemistry. She looked at him. Acting chemistry, you mean? Yeah. Of course, acting. The next afternoon, Belle arrived at Warner Studios shaking like a leaf. She'd spent the whole night watching acting videos on YouTube and practicing in front of the mirror. David Richardson was exactly how she pictured him. Gray hair, stylish glasses, a serious but kind expression. Belle, thanks for coming. Shall we begin? Sure. Yes, sir. Relax, I'm going to give you a scene to read. It's a conversation between Emma, your character, and James, Axel's character. Emma has just realized she's in love with James, but she doesn't think he'll ever feel the same. Belle took the script with trembling hands. Can I read it first? Of course. Take 5 minutes. She read through it quickly. Emma was pouring her heart out, vulnerable and desperate. It felt like something Belle had lived herself. Ready? David asked. Belle took a deep breath. Ready. Action. Belle changed. In an instant, she was no longer the nervous assistant. She was Emma, a woman in love and full of courage. James, I know you probably think I'm crazy, she began, her voice shaking with emotion. But I can't keep pretending that what I feel for you is just friendship. Every time you smile at me, my heart races. Every time you touch me, even by accident, I feel a spark. And I know you probably don't feel the same. But I had to say it, because if I keep this inside for one more day, I'm going to explode. She stopped, breathing heavily. David was silent, watching. Go on, he said gently. And if you don't feel the same, that's okay. We can still be friends. But please, don't look at me with pity. Don't pretend you didn't hear me. Just be honest, even if it means breaking my heart. Belle finished with real tears in her eyes. She had poured so much of herself into that performance that for a moment, she forgot it was just an audition. David stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then he started clapping, slowly. Incredible. Was it good? Belle, in 20 years of directing, I've rarely seen someone bring that much truth into a scene. You weren't acting, you were feeling. Belle blushed. Thank you, Mr. Richardson. No need to thank me. I should be thanking you. The role is yours. Belle nearly fell off her chair. Excuse me? You're our new lead. Welcome to Manhattan Hearts. Belle couldn't even form a sentence. We'll announce it officially tomorrow. You and Axel will be the lead couple on the show. I hope you're ready. Your life is about to change completely. Belle floated out of the studio. She called Axel immediately. Axel, I got the part. I knew you would. Congratulations, Belle. We're going to be working together, as a couple, on TV. It's going to be amazing, Axel said. But deep down he was thinking, this is either going to be the best thing that's ever happened to me, or the most complicated. The next day, the news was everywhere. Assistant turned star, Belle Everly to lead new HBO series. From assistant to actress, Belle Everly's inspiring story. Axel Bennett and Belle Everly, TV's most anticipated couple. Belle woke up to hundreds of messages on her phone. Reporters wanted interviews. Agents were offering to represent her. Brands were pitching partnerships. Her life had completely changed in less than 24 hours. And as she read through the excited comments from future fans of the show, one question kept echoing in her mind. How am I supposed to pretend to be in love with Axel on screen when I'm starting to wonder if I even have to pretend? But that was a question for another day. For now, Belle Everly, Hollywood's newest rising star, had a whole career ahead of her, and a co-star who was getting harder and harder to resist. 2 weeks later, Belle was sitting in the passenger seat of Axel's car as they drove to Portland, where they'd filmed the first scenes of Manhattan Hearts. The West Coast scenery rolled by outside the window while she read through the script for the 15th time. Belle, you're going to wear out the paper, Axel said, laughing. I'm nervous. What if I forget my lines? What if I trip? What if I do something embarrassing in front of the whole crew? You're going to be amazing. Just relax. Belle glanced sideways at him. Axel was driving with an annoyingly calm expression, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the window, looking like a men's cologne ad. How can you be so calm? We're about to act like we're madly in love. It's just acting, he said, though his hands gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. Of course, acting, Belle agreed quickly. No big deal, just two friends pretending to be madly in love in front of cameras and millions of people. Axel nearly swerved off the road. When they arrived in Portland, they checked into the hotel arranged by the production team. Belle was amazed by how luxurious it was. A hot tub, a river view, a stocked minibar, and even monogrammed bathrobes with the show's logo. This is unreal, she whispered, falling back onto the king-sized bed. The next day, filming began. The first scene was fairly simple, Emma and James meeting casually in a coffee shop. But as the days went on, the scenes became increasingly intimate. On Monday, they filmed the first official date scene. Belle was nervous, but once the cameras rolled, something magical happened. She completely transformed into Emma, and the chemistry between them was undeniable. Cut. Perfect! David Richardson shouted. You two are gold together. On Tuesday, they filmed the couple's first argument. Belle was surprised by how intense Axel's performance was. When he shouted, I can't pretend I don't care about you anymore. His eyes lit up in a way that made her heart race. Wow, Axel, Belle said during the break. That felt really real. I almost believed you were actually mad at me. Axel looked away. Yeah, method acting. On Wednesday, they filmed the scene Belle had been dreading the most, the couple's first romantic kiss. They rehearsed it 3 times before shooting, and each time Belle felt butterflies, stronger and stronger. Action, David yelled. Emma and James were arguing in the rain, artificial, created by the set's sprinklers. Suddenly, James pulled Emma close and kissed her passionately. Belle melted. The kiss was so intense, she forgot where she was. Cut. Fantastic. One more for safety. They did the scene 5 times. With every kiss, Belle felt more confused. It didn't feel like acting. It felt too real. On Thursday, they filmed the most intimate scene so far. Emma and James almost sleeping together. Nothing explicit was shown, but the romantic tension was clear. Belle was lying against Axel's chest, feeling his heart pounding. You okay? She whispered, off script. Perfectly fine, he replied, but his voice was hoarse. During the lunch break, Belle finally brought up what had been bothering her. Axel, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you okay? In the scenes you seem really emotionally involved, more than usual. Axel hesitated. I just want to give my best to the show. I know, but sometimes it doesn't feel like acting. It feels like you really mean what you're saying. Axel looked at her seriously. What if I do? Belle was speechless. Her heart skipped a beat. Axel. Belle, I need to tell you something. Just then, a stunning blonde woman burst onto the set like a tornado in high heels and expensive perfume. Axel, darling! Belle turned to see a goddess, easily 6 feet tall, running toward them. The woman was wearing a red dress that probably cost more than Belle's yearly salary and had a toothpaste commercial kind of perfect smile. Victoria? Axel's eyes widened in panic. Victoria didn't wait for an explanation. She jumped into Axel's arms and kissed him on the mouth. Right there, in front of the whole crew. Belle felt her whole world collapse. The kiss lasted about 5 never-ending seconds. When Victoria finally pulled back, she smiled brightly. I missed you, babe. I came straight from Paris to see you. Belle stood frozen, watching the scene like a slow-motion car crash. Axel tried to gently pull away from Victoria. Victoria, what are you doing here? Well, I came to see my favorite ex-boyfriend. I heard you were filming a new series. How exciting. Ex-girlfriend, Belle's brain registered. Ex-girlfriend. A woman. He dated women too. Victoria finally noticed Belle. And you must be the new actress. So cute, she said in a condescending tone. Axel's always had a soft spot for charity cases. Belle felt her blood boil. Charity cases? Oh, sweetheart, everyone knows you were just his assistant until last week. It must be so exciting to act alongside a real professional like Axel. Axel quickly stepped in. Victoria, don't be rude. Belle's an amazing actress. Of course she is, darling. No offense, Victoria said, clearly not meaning it. Mind if I watch the shoot? I'm sure it'll be entertaining. Belle couldn't take it anymore. Without saying a word, she turned and marched off the set, leaving a trail of anger behind her. Belle, wait, Axel called after her, but she didn't stop. Victoria watched with a smug smile. Wow, emotional. So typical of beginner actresses. They always take themselves way too seriously. Axel glared at her. Victoria, you need to leave. Now. But Axel, I came all this way. Now, Victoria. Meanwhile, Belle was locked in her dressing room, trying not to cry from a mix of rage and confusion. Is he even gay? He dated that supermodel, but I saw him almost kiss a man. I don't know anything anymore. What an idiot I am. She grabbed her phone and called Sarah. Sarah, I need to know everything about the Victoria who just showed up on set. Victoria Summers? The model? She and Axel dated for 2 years. They broke up last year. Why? She showed up and kissed him, right in front of me. No way. The nerve. And what did he do? Nothing. Just stood there like a statue. Belle, are you jealous? Belle went silent. The question echoed in her mind like a bell. Jealous? Me? Of Axel? But and now I'm... Sarah, I think I'm in trouble. Why? Because I think I'm in love with my best friend, and now I don't know what to do. On the other end of the line, Sarah screamed with excitement. I knew it. I knew you two would end up together. Belle hung up and dropped onto the couch in the dressing room. Her life was now more complicated than a soap opera. And the worst part, she still had to go back out there and pretend to be in love with Axel, when now she wasn't sure she had to pretend. Great, Belle. Just great. The next morning, Belle arrived on set 15 minutes late, wearing oversized sunglasses that covered half her face and giving off an energy that clearly said, "Please don't talk to me." She greeted the crew politely, grabbed her script, and sat in the seat farthest from where Axel was standing. Good morning, Belle, Axel said, walking over carefully, like he was approaching a wild animal. Good morning, Mr. Bennett, she replied, without looking up from her script. Mr. Bennett? Axel frowned. Belle had never called him that, not even on her first day at work. Belle, about yesterday? Can I explain? There's nothing to explain, she said, flipping a page a little too forcefully. Your personal life isn't my business. I'm just the assistant. I was. Now I'm just your coworker. The word just came out so cold, it felt like a punch to Axel's stomach. But Belle, Mr. Bennett, I think we should keep things professional. We have important scenes to shoot today. Axel stood there, watching as Belle focused on the script like a brain surgeon. She had built an invisible but very real wall between them. All morning, Belle kept her distance. During breaks, she chatted happily with other actors, production assistants, even the guy who brought coffee. With everyone, except Axel. When they had to act together, she turned into Emma effortlessly, giving a flawless performance. But the second David shouted, "Cut!" she became the cool, distant Belle again. "Belle, do you want to have lunch together?" Axel asked during the break. "Thanks, but I already have plans," she said, picking up a salad and sitting with the cinematographer and 2 costume designers. Axel ate alone, chewing his sandwich while watching Belle laugh at other people's jokes. People who weren't him. "Dude, you look like a lost puppy," said Marcus, Axel's best friend, sitting next to him. "Victoria showed up yesterday and ruined everything," Axel mumbled. "The ex-demon? What did she want?" "To make trouble, apparently. She kissed me right in front of Belle without even asking." Marcus shook his head. "And Belle saw?" "She saw the whole thing. Now she's acting like I'm radioactive." "Did you tell her Victoria's completely out of her mind? And that you broke up with her because she was jealous of your own shadow?" "She won't let me explain. Every time I try to talk, she either changes the subject or walks away." In the middle of the afternoon, David announced they'd be filming the most complicated scene of the week, a sequence where Emma catches James on the phone and climbs a fire escape to try to listen in. "Belle, you'll go up that staircase," David explained, pointing to a 3-meter-high metal structure. "We want to show Emma's desperate to find out what James is hiding." Belle looked at the stairs. They were taller than they seemed in the script, and some of the steps looked a bit rusty. "No problem," she said, trying to sound confident. "Are you sure?" "I can call the stunt double," David offered. "No need, I can do it." Axel came closer, clearly concerned. "Belle, that staircase looks a little unstable. Maybe it's better if—" "Thanks for the concern, Mr. Bennett, but I can take care of myself," she cut in, adjusting her mic with a tone that broke his heart. The first take went smoothly. Belle climbed up quickly, pretended to listen to the call, came down. "Perfect." "One more time, but this time go up more slowly, like Emma's anxious," David said. "And Belle, try showing a little more intense curiosity when you reach the top." Second take. Belle started climbing again, more cautiously this time. She was almost at the top, stretching to show the expression David wanted, when, quack! One of the metal steps broke loose from the structure. Belle lost her balance and started falling backward. Everything happened in slow motion. She screamed, her hands reached out for something to grab, the script flew through the air like confetti. Axel acted on pure instinct. He ran and jumped, managing to catch her fall. They both tumbled to the ground, but Belle landed on top of him instead of hitting the concrete floor directly. "Belle!" the whole crew shouted. Axel was on the floor, holding Belle unconscious in his arms. Her left arm was in an odd position, clearly injured, and there was a small cut on her forehead. "Call an ambulance." "Now!" David shouted, already grabbing his phone. "Everyone back up. Give her space to breathe." Axel ordered, still on the floor, checking to make sure Belle was breathing normally. The ambulance arrived in record time. Axel carefully stood up, picked Belle up in his arms, and carried her to the stretcher, refusing to let go, even when the paramedics said they could take her. "I'm going with her," he declared, stepping into the ambulance without waiting for permission. The entire way to the hospital, he held her right hand, whispering, "You're going to be okay, Belle. I'm right here. Everything's going to be okay." She regained consciousness in the ambulance, groggy and confused. "Axel, what? Oh, my arm. You fell down the stairs. We're on our way to the hospital." "The stairs broke?" "One of the steps gave way. You hit your head too, but it doesn't look too serious." Belle tried to sit up, but a sharp pain made her gasp. "Don't move. Just stay still," Axel said, gently guiding her back down onto the stretcher. At the hospital, they found out Belle had fractured her wrist and sprained her shoulder. Nothing too serious, but her arm would be in a cast for 3 weeks. The cut on her forehead needed a few stitches. 3 weeks, Belle repeated, looking at the cast and carefully touching the bandage on her forehead. "How am I supposed to work?" "The production team will figure something out," Axel said, sitting in the chair beside the bed. "David already called. They'll rearrange the scenes. What matters is that you get better." Belle looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since the incident with Victoria. He was pale, with streaks of dirt on his clothes from the fall. Did you get hurt too? Just a few scratches, nothing serious. You saved me, she said quietly. Anyone would have done the same. No, they wouldn't. You threw yourself under me. You could have gotten badly hurt. Axel shrugged, like it was nothing. You're important to me, Belle, even if you don't want to be my friend anymore. Belle felt a pang in her chest. Even after everything, even after she'd been cold to him all day, he had still risked himself to protect her. Axel, You don't have to say anything, he interrupted, standing up. I'll go get the nurse and see if you can be discharged. As he left the room, Belle sat quietly with her thoughts. Victoria might have been the most beautiful ex-girlfriend in the world, but in that moment of danger, it was Belle that Axel had protected without hesitation. That had to mean something, didn't it? After leaving the hospital, it was nearly midnight when Axel pulled the car into a small town in rural Oregon called Millfield. The GPS had led them there after Belle mentioned feeling sick and needing to stop and rest. Are you sure you're okay? Axel asked for the 15th time, watching Belle cradle her casted arm. I'm okay, just a little dizzy. Must be the meds they gave me at the hospital. They stopped in front of the only hotel in town with its lights still on. The building looked frozen in time, with a flickering neon sign that read, VA ANSI, the G was missing. At the front desk, an older man, maybe in his 70s, was dozing off behind the counter, glasses sliding down his nose, a folded newspaper on his chest. Excuse me, Axel said, tapping the counter gently. The man startled awake. Oh, visitors. What a surprise. I'm Harold, night manager. You looking for a room? 2 rooms, please, Axel and Belle said at the same time. Harold made a face and tapped on a computer that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1990s. Well, there's a little problem. We only have 1 room left. There's a sewing convention in the next town. Folks all ended up here. Belle and Axel exchanged a glance. Are you sure? Belle asked. Positive, but it's a big room. It's got a queen-size bed and a sofa bed. Very comfortable. Sofa bed? Axel repeated, doubtful. Yes, sir. Vintage 1975. A true classic. Belle sighed. Between sleeping on a vintage sofa bed or driving another 2 hours with a throbbing arm, the choice was obvious. We'll take it, she said. Harold smiled and handed them a heavy metal key with a giant pine tree-shaped keychain. Room 237, 2nd floor, end of the hall. Elevator's been out since 2019, so you'll have to use the stairs. Stairs? Belle looked at her casted arm. I'll carry you, Axel said, like it was nothing. You're not carrying me. Of course I am. Come here. Before Belle could protest, Axel picked her up bridal style. She turned as red as a tomato. Axel, put me down. I hurt my arm, not my legs. Quiet. Stairs with a cast? Not a good idea. Harold watched the scene with a smile. How sweet. How long have you 2 been married? We're not. Belle began. 3 years. Axel lied, already heading up the stairs. She still gets shy. Belle shot him a glare. Room 237 was exactly what you'd expect from a hotel built in 1952 that had never been renovated. Faded floral wallpaper, a bulky old TV, a bed that had clearly seen better days, and a sofa that was definitely not meant for sleeping. Oh my, Belle murmured, looking around. Well, at least it's clean, Axel said, always the optimist. Belle tested the sofa. It was hard as a rock and maybe 5 feet long. Axel, there's no way you'll fit on this. Sure I will, I'm flexible. You're 6'1". This thing is barely 5 feet. Belle, your arm is hurt. I'm not letting you sleep on this thing. I'm the one who got hurt, so I get to decide where I sleep. Don't be stubborn. Take the bed. I'm not taking the bed. You drove all day, took me to the hospital, practically saved my life. The bed is yours. Belle, Axel, I'm sleeping on this couch, and that's final, she said, flopping down onto it with as much dignity as she could manage. Axel rolled his eyes, grabbed a blanket from the closet, and tossed it over her. You're impossible. Thanks. Good night. At 2 a.m, Belle was still awake. The couch was uncomfortable. Her arm throbbed, and every time she tried to move, the cast hit either the wall or the sofa arm. Belle? Axel whispered in the dark. Are you awake? No, she lied. How are you talking if you're asleep? Lucid dreaming. Axel chuckled softly. Come over here. The bed's huge. We'll both fit. No way. Belle, you haven't slept? Your arm hurts. I can hear you tossing around. I'm perfectly comfortable here on my stone slab. For heaven's sake, woman, we're adults. We can share a bed without it being a thing. Belle thought about it. Her arm really was killing her, and the bed looked so much better than the torture device she was lying on. Promise you'll stay on your side? I promise. And you won't do anything weird while I'm sleeping? Like what? I don't know. Men do strange things in their sleep. Snoring, kicking, talking. I don't do any of that. Fine. But only because my arm is killing me. Belle got off the couch with some effort and climbed into bed, keeping as much space between them as possible. They lay there like two mummies, staring at the ceiling. Thanks, she whispered. You're welcome. Within minutes, Belle finally drifted off. Axel stayed awake a little longer, listening to her breathing and trying not to think about how nice it felt to have her nearby. Around 5 a.m, Axel woke up to sunlight creeping in through the window. It took a few seconds for him to realize he was lying on his side, with Belle curled up against his chest, her head resting on his shoulder. How did this happen? He thought, trying to remember if he'd moved during the night. Belle was sound asleep, a peaceful expression on her face. Axel let himself watch her for a few moments, thinking how beautiful she looked, even with messy hair and a bandage on her forehead. Without meaning to, he relaxed and dozed off again. At 7, Belle slowly woke up, feeling more rested than she had in weeks. She felt warm and comfortable. Oddly so. That's when she realized she was practically lying on top of Axel. His right arm was around her waist, his leg was tangled with hers, and he was gently snoring right into her ear. Axel, she yelled, shoving him with her good arm. Axel startled awake, lost his balance, and rolled right off the bed, tangled in the sheets, landing on the floor with a thud. Ow! He groaned from the floor, wrapped up like a burrito. What happened? Earthquake? You said you don't snore. I don't snore. You were snoring like a hibernating bear, and you said you'd stay on your side of the bed. I did. You're the one who crossed over to mine. Axel tried to untangle himself from the sheets, but only got more stuck. Belle, help me out here. I'm trapped. You look like a giant spring roll, she said, laughing despite herself. Very funny. Come unwrap me. Belle had to use her good arm to help him get free. Once they finally managed, they sat on the floor, out of breath. Good morning to you too, Axel said, running a hand through his messy hair. Sorry for yelling. I just woke up and we were really close. Yeah, I woke up like that too. I don't know how it happened. Belle blushed. Well, we slept okay. I mean, I did. Me too. Best night of sleep I've had in weeks. They got up from the floor, both avoiding eye contact. I'm gonna shower first, Belle said, grabbing her things. And Axel? Yes, thank you. For everything. For saving me. For bringing me to the hospital. For sharing the bed. Belle, you don't have to thank me. That's what friends do. Friends, Belle thought as she stepped into the bathroom. Why is that word starting to sound strange? Outside, Axel was wondering the same thing, especially after waking up with her in his arms. Friends didn't wake up like that. At least, he never had with any of his friends. But that was a conversation for another time. For now, they had to get back to Portland and pretend that sharing a bed hadn't meant a thing, even though they both knew it had meant everything. On the drive back to Portland, Belle sat quietly in the passenger seat, staring out the window and trying to process everything that had happened in the past 24 hours. Her arm, now in a cast, rested in her lap, but her mind was racing. Waking up next to Axel, the way I felt safe, the way he caught me yesterday, and Victoria kissing him. The puzzle pieces were shifting in her mind, creating a completely different picture than the one she had imagined over the past few months. Axel, she said suddenly, breaking the silence. Yes? Can I ask you something kind of direct? Axel glanced at her quickly before focusing back on the road. Of course. Ask me anything. Belle took a deep breath. It was now or never. Are you gay? Axel almost swerved off the road. The car jerked slightly before he got it under control. What? You heard me. Are you gay? Axel started laughing. A loud, genuine, almost hysterical laugh. Belle, what are you talking about? Why would I be gay? Because I saw you. The first day I was assigned as your assistant. You were in the dressing room with Marcus, and you two were really close. You looked like you were about to kiss. Axel laughed even harder. Belle, are you serious? Completely serious. I saw it with my own eyes. And based on that, you thought I was gay? Well, yeah. And then you never talked about girlfriends. You always avoided the topic when someone asked about your personal life, and your romantic scenes were terrible before I started coaching you. Axel stopped laughing, though he was still smiling. Axel, pull over, she said suddenly. What? Pull over, right now. Axel obeyed, pulling onto the shoulder of the road. Belle turned in her seat to face him directly. Explain everything, now. Axel turned off the engine and faced her, still smiling. Belle, I'm not gay, not even a little. I'm probably the straightest guy you'll ever meet. But I saw you with Marcus. Marcus was helping me rehearse a scene. I was getting a lot of criticism for my romantic acting, and he was just giving me a few tips. Belle's eyes widened. Seriously? Seriously. We were rehearsing the final scene kiss. Marcus is an actor too. But, what about Victoria? Victoria is my ex-girlfriend. We were together for 2 years, and it was a terrible relationship. She's possessive, dramatic, and a bit unstable. That's why I avoid talking about my personal life to the media. I don't want to give her any reason to show up and make trouble. Belle stayed quiet for a moment, taking it all in. So you've always been straight? Always. And Belle, do you want to know why my romantic scenes were so bad before you came along? Why? Because I never felt real chemistry with any of my co-stars, until you. Belle's heart skipped a beat. Axel? All those rehearsals we did. Belle, I wasn't acting, not for a second. Belle felt like the ground shifted beneath her. Everything she'd believed over the last few months was falling apart and coming together, all at once. I need some air, she said, getting out of the car quickly. Axel followed her. Belle, wait. She was pacing up and down the shoulder, running her free hand through her hair. You're not gay. You've never been gay. I spent months thinking you were gay. I tried to tell you so many times, but you always interrupted me or changed the subject. I offered to help you learn how to kiss because I thought I was safe. I thought You'd never what? Belle stopped pacing and looked straight at him. That I'd never fall in love with you. The words came out before she could stop them. Axel froze, stunned. You? What? Belle covered her face with her good hand. I shouldn't have said that. Forget it. Forget everything. Let's just go back to the car. She tried to walk past him, but Axel gently held her by the arm, the one that wasn't in a cast. No, we're not forgetting this. Say it again. Axel, please. Belle, say it. She took a deep breath, gathering courage. I fell in love with you, okay? Even when I thought you were gay, even knowing it was impossible, I still fell for you. And when Victoria showed up, I was insanely jealous. And when you saved me yesterday, I realized that what? That I'm completely lost. Because now I find out you're not gay, that maybe there's a chance, and I don't know what to do with that. Axel took a step closer to her. Belle, can I tell you a secret? What secret? I fell in love with you during our very first rehearsal, when you put your hand on my waist and told me to breathe like a leading man. Right then, I knew I was in trouble. Belle looked at him, stunned. Seriously? Dead serious. And do you know why I kept finding excuses for us to rehearse more? Why? Because it was the only way I could be around you without coming off like a stalker. Belle started laughing, surprised and a little nervous. Axel Bennett, you're an idiot. I know. You let me believe you were gay for months. I tried to tell you. You could have been more direct. How? Hi, Belle, I'm not gay and I'm in love with you. Yes, exactly like that. And you would have believed me? Belle paused to think. Probably not. See? They stood there facing each other, smiling like two teenagers who just found out their feelings were mutual. So, what now? Belle asked. Now, Axel stepped closer to her. Now I do this. He put his hands on her face and kissed her. But this time, it wasn't for rehearsal. It wasn't for a scene. It was just for them, in that moment. Belle melted completely. It felt like every kiss before had only been practice for this one. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathless. Wow, she whispered. Yeah. Wow. So, are we going to give this a try? Belle Everly, I want more than just a try. I want to date you for real. I want to take you out to dinner, watch bad movies with you, wake up next to you without it being by accident. Belle smiled, feeling butterflies in her stomach doing somersaults. But what about work? The show? We'll figure it out. Actors date all the time. And if it doesn't work, it will. How can you be so sure? Axel smiled and kissed her forehead. Because I spent months pretending to be in love with you on camera. Just imagine what I can do when it's real. Belle laughed, finally letting herself believe this was really happening. Okay, But if you start snoring again, I'm kicking you out of bed. Deal. But if you start being stubborn again, I'm going to keep carrying you around. Fair enough. Axel started the car and drove on, both of them wearing smiles that felt like they might never go away. The road to Portland had never seemed so short, and the future had never looked so full of promise. And for the first time in months, Belle wasn't pretending to be in love. She simply was. That night, Axel took Belle to dinner at Romano's, a cozy Italian restaurant in downtown Portland. Belle was as nervous as a teenager on a first date, changing outfits 3 times before settling on a simple blue dress that made her eyes stand out. "You look beautiful," Axel said when he picked her up at the hotel. "Thank you. You look, wow, too." He was wearing a dark dress shirt that made his eyes look even more intense. Belle had to stop herself from staring. The restaurant was perfect, dim lighting, soft music, and luckily a private little table in the corner. They talked about everything and nothing, laughing like old friends who just realized they might be something more. "I still can't believe you thought I was gay for months," Axel said as he cut into his pasta. "In my defense, you're very put together and your fashion sense is better than mine," Belle replied. "That doesn't mean anything. Marcus is gay and dresses like a surfer who just rolled off the beach." Okay. It was a quick assumption, but you have to admit it was kind of funny. "Funny for you. I spent all day trying to impress a woman who thought I liked men." Belle almost choked on her wine. "You were trying to impress me?" "Belle, why do you think I kept asking to rehearse?" "It wasn't just about improving the performance. I thought you were just a perfectionist. I am. But with you, it was different. I made up any excuse just to be near you." Belle smiled, feeling her heart race. "And I thought I was just being a good teacher." "You were the best teacher. But what you taught me went far beyond acting." They finished dinner chatting about the show, about future plans, about how quickly everything had changed. When they left the restaurant, Axel stopped Belle on the sidewalk. "Can I kiss you? Right here on the street, like a normal couple?" "Yes, you can." He pulled her in by the waist and kissed her gently, right there in front of the restaurant. It was a sweet kiss, full of promises and possibilities. Belle completely melted. What they didn't know was that Tony Marchetti, a professional paparazzo, was hiding behind a parked car recording everything with a long-range camera. "Jackpot," Tony whispered, already imagining how much the gossip blogs would pay for that video. The next morning, Belle woke up to her phone ringing nonstop. It was 6:30 a.m. "Hello?" she answered, half asleep. "Belle, did you see it?" Sarah shouted on the other end. "See what?" "Sarah, it's 6:30 in the morning. You two are on every gossip site. The video of you kissing has 20 million views." Belle sat up in bed instantly. "What video?" "Someone filmed you at the restaurant last night. It's all over TV, Instagram, TikTok. You're the most talked-about couple in America." Belle rushed to her laptop and opened the browser. The first headline that popped up read, "Axel and Belle, true love or a publicity stunt? Caught in an intimate moment." The video showed them kissing on the sidewalk, and the comments were pouring in. "Finally, I knew they were together. Cutest couple in Hollywood. That chemistry, better than any soap opera." Her phone rang again. It was Axel. "Belle, have you seen it?" "I just did." "Oh my God, Axel, we've become a meme. The producers want an urgent meeting." David's freaking out in a good way. An hour later, they were sitting in David Richardson's office, who looked like a kid on Christmas morning. "You two are geniuses," David said, waving his hands excitedly. "The buzz you've created is better than any marketing campaign." "David, we didn't create anything," Axel said. "Someone filmed us without permission. What matters is, everyone's talking about the show. Pre-orders tripled overnight." Belle and Axel exchanged glances. "So what does this mean for us?" Belle asked. "It means you're going to give the public what they want. I'm adding a final scene to the series. An epic reconciliation kiss between Emma and James. It'll be the perfect grand finale." Belle went pale. "An added kissing scene?" "Yes, and not just any kiss. The most romantic kiss television has ever seen. You two will be amazing." Axel noticed Belle's nervous expression. "David, could you give us a minute?" "Of course, but decide quickly. We film tomorrow." Once David left, Axel turned to Belle. "What's wrong?" I don't know if I can do this, Axel." "Why not?" "Because now it's real. Before I could pretend. But now, how can I kiss you in front of everyone knowing it's not acting anymore? Axel smiled, the same way you always have, with your heart. What if I mess everything up? You won't. Trust me. 3 weeks later, the series had ended with massive success. The final kiss scene broke ratings records, and Belle and Axel had officially become America's favorite couple. At the awards event for the show in Los Angeles, they sat in the front row, holding hands. When Manhattan Hearts was announced as Best Drama Series, David walked up to accept the award. I want to thank the entire amazing team, but especially our stars, Axel Bennett and Belle Everly, who brought truth and passion to the screen that, well, you all saw the result. The audience applauded. Then David added, Actually, Axel has something to say. Axel? Belle looked at Axel, confused. He stood up and walked to the stage, taking the microphone from David. Thank you, David. I do have something really important to say. The room went quiet. Cameras zoomed in on Axel. When I started this show, I was just an actor doing his job, but I found something much more valuable than any award or recognition. He looked straight at Belle. Belle Everly, you changed my life completely. You taught me what it means to love for real, not just in a script, and I want everyone to know. Belle's heart skipped a beat. I love you, truly. Not like James loves Emma, but like Axel loves Belle, and I hope you feel the same. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Belle froze for a moment, tears welling in her eyes. Then, without thinking, she got up and ran to the stage. She climbed the stairs 2 at a time, reached Axel, and kissed him deeply, right there, in front of millions of viewers. When they pulled apart, she grabbed the microphone. Now this is a real scene, she said, smiling through her tears. The crowd went wild. And Belle and Axel finally stopped pretending. They were, officially and openly, head over heels in love. And this time, it wasn't for the cameras. 6 months after the award ceremony that changed their lives, Belle was sitting in her new dressing room at the network, looking at the sign on the door. Belle Everly, lead actress. It still didn't feel real. From clumsy assistant to lead actress in less than a year, it felt like something out of a movie. Knocking on your own door now? Axel said, showing up in the hallway with 2 coffees. I still can't believe this is real. Belle replied, taking the coffee. Sometimes I think I'll wake up and find out it was all just a crazy dream. If it's a dream, I'm sleeping too. And don't wake me up, he said, kissing her forehead. Over the past few months, the two of them had found the perfect balance. Axel had grown more mature, less worried about what others thought, and more focused on what really mattered. Belle, in turn, had gained confidence, not just as an actress, but as a woman. They were partners in everything, in work, in life, and in their dreams. Nervous about today's press conference? Axel asked. A little. I never really get used to all those personal questions. Don't worry, I'll be right there with you. The press conference was to announce the network's new series, City of Dreams, where Belle would star alongside a veteran Hollywood actor. Axel would be producing and making a special appearance. In the network's auditorium, about 50 journalists waited eagerly. Belle and Axel walked in together, greeted the press, and sat at the main table. Belle, how does it feel to be the network's new darling? One journalist asked. I'm still getting used to it. It's a big responsibility, but I'm truly grateful for the opportunity. Axel, what's it like working with your girlfriend? Isn't it complicated mixing your personal and professional lives? Actually, it's the opposite, Axel replied. Belle makes me a better professional. She challenges me, she inspires me. Working with someone you love and deeply respect, it can only go well. The questions continued for about 30 minutes. Belle was feeling confident, answering everything naturally, when Axel suddenly stood up. There's actually something I'd like to say, he announced. Belle looked at him, puzzled. That wasn't in the script. Axel? She whispered. Belle, would you come stand next to me? What are you doing? She asked under her breath, but stood up anyway. Trust me. Axel took the microphone and turned to Belle, who stood beside him, completely confused. Belle Everly, 8 months ago you came into my life as a clumsy assistant who thought I was gay. The audience laughed. Belle blushed. You taught me that acting isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about finding the truth inside yourself. And my truth is... Axel got down on one knee. Belle covered her mouth with both hands, realizing what was happening. My truth is that I want to spend the rest of my life rehearsing with you. Not lines, not scripts, but real life, real moments, real love. He pulled a small box from his pocket. The journalist stood up, snapping photos wildly. "Belle Everly, will you marry me?" Belle was crying and laughing at the same time. The entire room fell silent, waiting for her answer. "You're crazy," she said through her tears. "Completely insane." "So, is that a yes or a no?" "It's obviously a yes, you idiot." Axel slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her. The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. The photographers went wild. The internet broke all over again. "I love you," Axel whispered in her ear. "I love you too. But next time, give me a little warning before you do something like this." Where's the fun in that? 3 months later, the Millfield Inn had been transformed into a fairy tale setting. The same hotel where they'd accidentally shared a bed was now hosting the most anticipated wedding in Hollywood. Harold, the manager who had welcomed them that night, was wearing a rented tux and feeling like the most important man in the world. "Never thought my little hotel would host a celebrity wedding," he said to anyone who'd listen. Belle was in room 237, the same one as before, getting ready with help from her mom and Sarah. "I can't believe you're getting married in the same place where you two first slept together," Sarah said, adjusting the veil. "This is where I realized I was in love with him," Belle said, looking out the window. "Even if I still thought he was gay." "Honey, are you sure he's not gay?" her mom asked for the 10th time. "Mom, for heaven's sake." Downstairs in the hotel's makeshift garden, Axel was waiting at the altar, a wooden arch decorated with flowers that Harold had built with the help of 3 staff members and a YouTube tutorial. Marcus, standing beside him as best man, leaned in. "Nervous?" he asked. "Terrified," Axel admitted. "What if she changes her mind? What if she runs?" "Man, she just spent $50,000 on a dress. She's not going to run." The music started to play. Belle appeared at the entrance to the garden, glowing in the simple yet elegant dress she had chosen. She walked slowly, smiling at the guests, a mix of Hollywood colleagues, family, and hotel staff that Harold had personally invited. When she reached the altar, Axel was clearly moved. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi," she whispered back. The officiant, a kind older man who had driven 3 hours from Portland, began the ceremony. "We're gathered here today to celebrate the love between Axel and Belle, a couple that proves the best relationships sometimes start with the worst misunderstandings." The guests laughed. "Axel, would you like to say your vows?" Axel took a deep breath. "Belle, when you offered to give me kissing lessons because you thought I was gay, I knew my life was about to change completely. You taught me that love isn't about pretending to be perfect. It's about being real. And my truth is that I want to love you, make you laugh, and carry you in my arms whenever you're too stubborn to let me help." Belle was crying. "Belle, your vows? Axel, you showed me that the best scripts are the ones we don't plan. That sometimes you have to improvise, make mistakes, and start over. And that real love is so much better than anything we can act out. I promise to love you even when you snore, even when you make up weird excuses to kiss me, and especially when you're so sweet that you make me cry on national television. Does anyone have the rings?" the officiant asked. Harold stepped forward, holding a little pillow with the rings. "It's an honor," he said, emotional. They exchanged rings, promised to love each other forever, and finally the officiant said the magic words. "Axel, you may kiss your wife." And he did. A long, passionate, genuine kiss. The guests applauded, fireworks went off, arranged by Rice, whom Belle had hired specially, and Harold shouted, "This is going to be a movie!" At the reception, held in the hotel's main hall, decorated with Christmas lights, Harold kept up all year long, Belle and Axel had their first dance as husband and wife. "Mrs. Bennett," Axel said, spinning Belle on the dance floor. "Still getting used to the name. You've got the rest of your life to get used to it. And you, Mr. Bennett, are you ready for a lifetime of surprises? With you, I'm counting on it." And as they danced, surrounded by friends, family, and hotel staff, Belle thought about how generous life had been to her. From a clumsy assistant who thought she'd fallen for a gay man, to a famous actress married to the love of her life. There was no better script than that. What did you think of Belle and Axel's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. On a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate it? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to keep up with all our stories, and check out more touching stories by clicking right here on the final screen.